Well, good afternoon, everyone. Isn't it so nice to have a little bit of rain? I look like I'm a hay farmer. I'm getting ready to bring in a crop. So everything is going to be a lot happier if we get some rain today. So I hope you're having a great day. My name is Sharon Parento, and I am not a weather person. I am not a meteorologist. I'm a realtor. And today we have just a fabulous practical webinar for you to help with your decisions about preparing your home for sale. That's the lens that we're looking at these decisions through, is what is going to impact the value of your home the best and give you the best bang for the buck, so to speak, when you're considering selling a property, and whether that's 12 or 24 months from now or in the next 6 weeks, whatever your timeline is, there are things you can be doing now that will pay off when it comes to the sale price you achieve. So this is based on some conversations that I've had in my career as a realtor. It's come from questions that I get all the time. I have people who are reaching out to me and say, hey, we're not quite ready yet, but we would like your opinion as a professional as to what we could do. Should we deal with the carpet in the main floor? What about our kitchen? It's original. What should we do about that? And those big ticket items, you can really spend a lot of money and not see it come back to you. So it's kind of what you should do, but also what you shouldn't do. And from my opinion, this is only my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. But I have to tell you that when we've been doing these seminars, I think it mostly confirms what people already know. They just want to hear it from another source. So we've been doing these in person at different community centers in the York region. And now, of course, because of all the changes that have occurred, we've adapted our offerings to suit the online format. And I think you're going to be really happy with what we've pulled together. I'm super proud of this. And Melissa, my operations coordinator, who makes all of this happen, we work very hard in bringing you up-to-date current knowledge so that you can make informed choices whenever it's appropriate for your situation. Okay, so let's get started. Let's look at what's going to be covered today. Now, I am so gratified to see new faces, and also welcome to the returning people who were here for part one. But in case you missed part one, or you need a little refresher, because it all moves pretty quickly, we're going to spend some time recapping, so to kind of establish a mindset. If you have kind of basic principles in mind, the specific decisions that you have to make about your house will be more evident, right? So we'll put some framing around this decision about what to do, what not to do. And then if you have specific questions, please type them into the chat box that's available on Zoom so that you don't forget them like I do. Like I walk into a room and can't remember why I even entered it. So then we're going to start getting to some nitty gritty about priorities and budget models. And I have some specific product recommendations for you that I've been researching. So this really amounts to me doing the research so that you don't have to. And you know what, like I said, in the previous seminar, we can sell every home. It just has to be at a price that will incentivize somebody taking on the work that you're not able or unwilling to do. Okay, so that's that. So let's just remember who our buyers are. If you are looking at this question about what to do to your home, we really have to think of it from the eyes of our buyers. And so after decluttering, which is always, always, always my number one recommendation, it's the most valuable thing you can do. If you did nothing else to your home, but just decluttered it, you'd still be better off than if you hadn't. So we're talking about a move-up buyer who is likely looking to your neighborhood for the same reasons that you were attracted to it. It has great amenities, it's got abundant parkland, the values are better than down in the city, you've got a backyard, like the whole thing. And when you remember back to what drew you to your home, that's the kind of buyer that you're likely to attract. So they're not your age and stage. Obviously, they're not that that phase of their life, they want to likely use whatever equity they have accumulated from their first purchase to help them finance something that gives them more leg room, more room to grow. But they have some definite concerns. They have some problems, their pain points, and we want to address those pain points. Number one, they are deeply in debt. We have statistics to show that the affordability of homes has really not kept pace, because there's such a wide divide between house prices going up and wages not keeping pace. So I know we all have memories of our parents saying, oh my gosh, a ton of coal just went up and we're going to lose the house. You know, that's a story from my family. Or the mortgage rates being at 13 or 14%. And I remember my parents fighting about money because it's like, oh, we're going to lose the house. But relatively speaking, today's buyers still carry more debt than you did at their age. And they also are very short on time. So they don't have a lot of wherewithal. They don't have a lot of bandwidth to put to the process of renovating a home. They are so overscheduled. I was fortunate to spend a time with my children at home, a block of time when they were young, but most families simply cannot afford that. That's relatively a luxury. So we have two working parents. We have a gaggle of kids who are programmed like crazy. They've got Kumon and ballet and soccer and swimming and hockey and baseball. So when we look at your house through their perspective, it helps us to decide what must be done. They want the same things you did from your house. That's the good life. They want to give their children a vision of a lifestyle in the same ways. So their concerns are both practical and lifestyle oriented. So we don't want to blow your retirement fund on renovating this house, because there's a couple of really good practical reasons why not to. Number one, you could spend a lot of money on renovation choices that your buyer just doesn't agree with. We see this all the time. There's a condo that I've been watching, and it's a really nice 3-bedroom condo in a building I really like, but this guy has decorated it so it looks like a disco. It is so, the design choices are so strong that it's been off-putting to potential buyers who are reluctant to pay his price and then tear everything out that they don't like. So the more you do, the more you're likely to, number one, increase the price beyond what your buyer can afford. And number two, they might not like the things you did anyways. Okay, so we really want to make sure that we're sensitive to the average selling price of your neighborhood and not to price yourself out of the market. Like, granted, there are buyers who will pay a premium for what we call a turnkey property, a property that needs nothing. You just literally turn the key, open the door, and move your stuff in. And there are those buyers, but they are not the majority. The majority of them are looking for a sweet spot between the condition of the property and the price of the property, which makes sense. That's the way we all consume a product, right? And that's the same thing with homes. Homes are products. I know they're your house, but from a consumer's point of view, they want the best value for the lowest price, obviously, the best condition for the lowest price. But on the other hand, the balancing truth is that even though there is very little inventory, 100% we are in a seller's market right now. We still have to make sure that the house presents well enough that we're not raising a whole bunch of red flags for them. Do you understand? Like, it's a balance between, there are things that I'm going to recommend that you do so that, number one, we don't have any red flags. Number two, we don't push buyers to something that's in a better condition. And we want to make sure that your home is as broadly appealing as possible. I want to stop right here and give you a case study, case in point. We have a property for sale listed in Pickering, and our property is at the very top of the price. We have listed it at a very high price for this market, for this area. But I've not heard a single realtor, and we've had now, I think, 13 realtors, and it's only been on the market a few days, come through with their clients. I've not heard anybody mention the condition of the home as a reason to justify a lower price. It's just fantastically prepared by the homeowners, by our team as well. Okay, so we want to make sure that it looks competitive and that it shines in a market that people are looking at very visually. So I know it seems like it's superficial, but we have to attack the things first and foremost that are going to make your property look as good as possible. Okay, while eliminating those red flags. So let's talk again, like we did last week. We're just reviewing now what we covered last week. What are free and low cost improvements that you can do, that you probably should do before listing and selling your home? So number one, seems self-evident, but every single day I see properties for sale that you just wish you could take a magic eraser to, a Mr. Clean magic eraser, where there's scuffs on the walls, or, this is one thing, the front of kitchen cabinets. I can't tell you how many MLS listings I see for sale where I want to go there. Wipe the front of the cabinets or the stainless steel appliances. You're thinking, what are you doing, people? So we do need to do a deep clean before we list the home. So in this listing in Pickering, it was the very last thing we did before the house was ready for market, is that we had our cleaner crew come in and do a deep clean. Like, we're talking appliances, inside, outside, window ledges, fans, the front of the house, like the screen door, if you have one, a storm door, or the side lights, all of that. And this is something you can chip away at over time. Or if you're ready to go to market sooner, it's something that we can help you facilitate, as I said, with our cleaning, our cleaners. So, whoa, stop. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, let's just go. There we go. So the next thing is to depersonalize. And what we talked about is that your property is going to be seen by literally hundreds of people online, like literally hundreds. And we don't want diplomas or family photos or even like anything that could identify you personally online. We just don't want that for you. We want to protect your safety. And plus, we want to take down things that, again, could offend people. I told last time the story of our client who was an avid hunter and fisher, and how we had to work very hard to request him, cajole him into taking down his 5-foot-long mako shark that he caught in Florida. These are things that will offend some buyers. We want them not to feel like they're intruding on your personal space. So this goes as far as anything that is really super personal to you. Collections, religious icons, all of those things can be put away temporarily. You're going to have to pack them anyways. So why not do it now while it gets you the best bang for the buck? That's the name of the game. And then we also have this decluttering. As I've mentioned, this is the highest and best use of your time, is really getting as much of it out. Most homes, when we list them for sale, it's at least like 70% of the decorative items are put away. Like, I mean, things in your china cabinet where, my china cabinet has become a little bit of like a just warehouse for my teacups and my candles and all that, right? So to display things, we want to edit it heavily. And then in the rest of the home, we really discourage the small pieces of furniture that break your eye line. So little occasional tables and chairs. We have this attachment to our little tables and chairs and little pieces of furniture all around. What we typically do is leave the big pieces of furniture and put away the secondary things. Okay, especially if it's blocking a way through. Like if we have to move from the living room and dining room, and then we've got to go through, past the love seat or something, we'll often pull that love seat out. So those kinds of things. So it's not just decluttering in terms of tchotchkes and clearing off surfaces. That's kind of a given, okay? Like that's pretty much assumed. But we're also talking about just opening the space visually by putting the small pieces of furniture into storage. Unfinished basements are a terrific receptacle for these extra furniture. And if we don't have access to that, sometimes it is the garage. So, and this time of year, that's not a big problem. So we want to declutter. Then we also want to make sure that the house is in good repair. Lots of times we procrastinate on that honey-do list, right? Maybe it's things like burnt out light bulbs in your overhead light fixtures, right? The ones in the hallway where there's 2 bulbs and only one is working. Those kind of little nitpicky things can actually make a big difference. If you have leaking faucets, or you have a garage door that's a kilter, those are things that have to be done ahead of time. Not only will it improve the overall appearance of your home and the impression that it's been very well maintained, it also prevents any attempt by the buyer's agent to claw back based on, say, a home inspection report. Lots of times they will look for a discount in the price if there's a ton of things to be repaired according to the home inspection report that the buyer has commissioned. So at the end of the sale process, once we've agreed upon a deal, lots of times those deals are contingent upon your home passing inspection. So if you know there are things, especially big ticket things like cracks in the foundation or a roof that is almost shot, it behooves you to do it on this side of the transaction when you're in control of the costs and the process. What ends up happening is if there's things that you knew about but didn't disclose, we end up having a very high pressure situation where everybody is very stressed out. It's not the best way to deal with it, for sure. Okay, then I do recommend paint. I think paint covers a multitude of sins. And if you have a home that is very colorful because you're a colorful person, well, that is lovely. You can certainly do that to your new home, but it really helps us to sell your home by broadening the appeal by neutralizing the paint color. So we are always working within a very, very muted palette of gray or beige or off-white, anything very, very light, because it tends to brighten up the home. We've worked with clients who had a very colorful palette in their home, and we really just tried to focus our attention on the main floor so that the first impression was not, oh my goodness, look at this foyer. It's 2 stories, it's lemon yellow. What are we going to do? That's a lot of work and effort and money. So if we ever have to decide between which rooms to paint and which rooms not to paint, we always try to focus our attention on the main floor and maybe secondarily the master bedroom. Because as you can imagine, if you walk into a house and just, so what, they have a lime green bedroom, it's just one room. But if you walk into a house and the whole living room, dining room is lime green, you're going to think, wowza, that's a lot. So painting is not cheap unless you do it yourself. But even then, it's the #1 thing that will transform, update, upgrade your environment. Okay, so we have a list of recommendations for paint colors, and it's always in that neutral palette. Okay, so now we get into setting priorities. We talked about this. I want to dive a little deeper this week. We talked about eliminating the red flags. So these are the things that a buyer could possibly use to bring down the price of your house, either in the offer that they submit or later on when they're negotiating based on the inspector's report. So these are, for lack of a better word, the unsexy things that buyers really are reluctant to spend money on. Things like roof and windows and furnace and repairs. So we want to eliminate as many of those red flags, pull down the obstacles to your home, and just make it more generally palatable. So that's #1 priority. You put those things on the top of the list to do that you know right now are faulty or deficiencies, okay? So that's #1. The only exception to this is maybe the furnace. I'm a little bit ambivalent about furnaces. It's great if you have a house that is a 40-year-old house and that you, in the last 10 years, have upgraded the furnace. That's no problem. that's a great situation. If your house is a 40-year-old house and you haven't upgraded the furnace, it becomes a little bit more on a case-by-case basis. It depends what else is requiring your attention and your money before we say, let's do a new furnace, because they're very expensive. And the absolute worst thing you could do is lease a furnace. It is the number one mistake that elderly people do in preparing their home. Buyers don't want to take on that contract, and it's I was going to say another word, it's hella expensive to buy out of it. We had a deal in Markham and it almost went south. It almost fell apart because the buyers did not want to take on the lease for the heating and air conditioning. It was a couple of $100s a month. They were already maxed out in their mortgage payments. They didn't have it. And my client ended up having to buy out the remainder of her contract for more than $9,000. It was a nightmare and it was so stressful. So please don't buy a furnace because I said you have to. Please don't. Okay, now I also want to make the distinction between renovation and deferred maintenance. So when we're talking about eliminating red flags, we're not really talking about renovation. We're not talking about remodeling bathrooms or anything. We're really just talking about taking care of things that should have already been done. Renovations add value, where taking care of deferred maintenance maintains the worth of your property. It just makes sure that you're not being sold as a fixer-upper to a potential client, in which case they're going to want a discount, right? So this is what we were talking about. These are the big ticket, big return items, the big five, as I like to call them. We've all seen, even in this crazy market, like properties are selling in less than 15 days this year, as opposed to almost 30 this time last year. So the market is bonkers for sellers right now. But even still, we're seeing properties that sit on the market, sit, and it's like the buyers have come and they've seen it and they have voted no with their feet. And they have said, not this house at this price in this condition. So they are for sale, they're on the market, but they're not in the market. Like every other product, as I mentioned, like imagine you were buying a used car. You would want a used car that had the lowest mileage and looked to be in the best condition, and that you had confidence had been well maintained. If you came into my minivan right now, it's got garden dirt in the back and open house signs and you know, I wouldn't sell my car that way because it would give a bad impression. So these are the things that I recommend you prioritize if they haven't been attended to, because buyers today, if they have 2 cents to rub together, which is kind of unlikely, but if they ever come across money, what do they want to spend it on? They want to spend it on cosmetics, not basic functional mechanical systems. Okay, so there's your list. And those are the big ticket items, no doubt about it. They are expensive. And I'm not suggesting that you take care of any of these preemptively. If your roof still has 3 or 5 years left on it, I wouldn't necessarily do it before sale. I'm just talking about roofs, you know, are 3 or 5 years past the time they should have been replaced. Okay, so then the next priority becomes working on the cosmetics, working on making sure that it is as visually appealing as possible. And so this is where we're getting into items like paint and flooring and light fixtures and hardware. This is where we are going to have to spend a little bit of money and be moderate, be modest in what you are taking on. I would never, ever expect you to put granite countertops in your kitchen strictly for the purpose of reselling. It just makes zero sense. But would I suggest perhaps that you paint out the kitchen cabinets? If they are that honey oak color that was original to the house in 1980, I absolutely would suggest you paint the cupboards. It's all about doing things in moderation, and all things moderation. So here's an example. Let's look at this. This is a very modest so-called renovation. Nothing has been remodeled in the sense that there's no change in the floor plan. The basic layout of the kitchen is identical, but look at the magical transformation that you can do with paint and hardware. We've changed the hardware for the original, it looks like possibly brass knobs, and we've updated the hardware. We've painted out the cabinets. We've switched out the light fixtures, but the rest of the house is essentially the same. Oh, the backsplash too. You can paint backsplashes. That is definitely a product you can do. So do you see, like, this is so much more up to date with the current aesthetic. If you want to know what buyers are looking for, it's this on the right hand side of your screen. We don't have as much appetite for real wood, even when it's good quality, as IKEA has ruined everything. So that's my line. IKEA has ruined it for real hardwood cabinets. Okay. Here's some more example of cosmetic improvements. This bathroom has the original linoleum. Remember that sheet linoleum, Armstrong linoleum? We had it in our first house in Richmond Hill, 1991. And it was expensive. Now the really what we are looking for is different options. But this is flooring and paint in that washroom there. The handles are the same, the sink is the same, the counter is the same. This is paint and flooring, and it makes a huge upgrade and update. Now look at this beautiful, it looks like a character filled like from a novel or something, a movie set. But I know we're Canadians, we hate painting wood, especially this, you know, wood trim, but it's dark, it's dingy, it almost looks like a funeral parlor. This is not what is going to appeal to buyers. The light, the bright, and I'm very sorry, but losing the wallpaper. So you see what a huge, huge difference it makes, and so much more appealing. Will the house on the left sell? Eventually, but we're really looking for a unicorn, somebody who is willing to take on this aesthetic, which is very, very few and far between. So I know we have an aversion to painting wood here in Canada. Get over it. Get over it. That's my best advice to you. This really goes for your rec room. If you have a basement rec room like they did in the 70s that has wood paneling, oh my goodness, it makes such a huge improvement just to paint it off-white or a light gray. It really, really revolutionizes this basement from something that looks like, you know, 1970s dungeon to something that people today could actually use and see as a potentially usable space. That's the big difference with the basement, is that today's buyers need that overflow space. They want to be able to shoo the kids down to the basement. But if it looks like a dungeon, they're not going to do it, right? So we want to make them see the value of having that extra space. Love this. I love this. So again, in terms of setting priorities, I've mentioned it before. I want to really nail this down. Main floor homes, because of the very practical consideration that if the bedrooms are off, well, you know what? It's just one room. And it can be something that's chipped away at over time. It might not even be that important. If you think of your own life, where on the priority list did remodeling your master bedroom come in? Redecorating. It was like way, way down. You'll do the kids' bedrooms before you'll do the master bedroom lots of times, right? As our priority. So buyers are the same. They really are looking for a main floor that is attractive and appealing. Now, main floors of a certain era have a real issue with carpet. I'm sorry to keep using this phrase, today's buyers, but we really do have to see it from their point of view. Today's buyers, again, maybe we should keep track how many times I say that. They don't like carpet. They really, really don't like carpet. They have an aversion to carpet, especially old carpet. So I want to give you some options that are based on 3 different layers or 3 different price points as to what you could replace main floor broadloom with. It's like we have the gold, silver, and bronze, and I'm going to explain to you why. So solid hardwood is just that. When we talk about hardwood floors in a house, it's a tremendous value added, especially as opposed to worn out, dusty pink carpet, which I see, especially it seems in Markham. I don't know what it is with Markham, but if you have original dusty rose carpet, hardwood would be the highest and best replacement, let's just say. But it's expensive. It's hella expensive. But this is what it is. It's real wood. It's planked. It's been cured in a kiln so that it doesn't warp. It's been tongued and grooved so that it slots together. Sometimes it's also additionally, no, I think almost always it's nailed to the subfloor, and then it's got a protective urethane coat on it. The next best is what we call engineered hardwood. And that's where we have a thin veneer of hardwood that has been sandwiched onto a man-made substrate. So this would be maybe particle board plus an insulating core, like it's got different manufacturing specifications, but it does have the same appearance of hardwood. The major disadvantage is that it can never be refinished. Most of the time, it will have the same kind of wear and durability as hardwood. In other words, it will dent, it will scratch, it will, you know, show wear and tear, especially if you have pets. But it is a lot less expensive because it's not the solid plank. Now, the next layer, and I'm not going to suggest this for main floor unless it's your absolute only option for budget, and that is laminate. So laminate has no actual wood. It's a picture of wood. And then it's all a man-made product, and it's very, very durable, and it's perfect for basements because it doesn't warp or do any of the things that real hardwood would. So you can lay it right down onto concrete floors. It tends to flex a bit, so sometimes we have to actually install a subfloor before the laminate, but in general, if we were to have to choose between old broadloom in a bedroom and any of these, I probably would go for a laminate that complemented whatever you had on the main floor, just because of the price differential. Okay, so this is definitely an option for certain applications. I'm really reticent to recommend it for a main floor because it tends to look cheap. Okay, we see it lots in condos because, again, it's being laid right over concrete. So in a condo application, I'm not as opposed to it, but for a detached home, I really think probably the best bang for your buck is the engineered hardwood, unless, let's look at one other option. This is a new product. This is called rigid plank luxury flooring, or luxury rigid plank flooring, or whatever. What it is, it's a solid core vinyl product. It does not flex like laminate will. It is practically impervious to water, pets, scratching. It's really super durable. So we see it being installed across the entire main floor. And because it is rigid, a lot of times we don't have to worry about what's underneath it nearly as much. I'm going to give you a specific example. We're seeing this laid throughout the main floor, even into the kitchen. Now, as long as you didn't have a difference in the height between your kitchen and living room, you could just continue right into the kitchen over your existing ceramic floors, because it doesn't bend and it won't telegraph the tiles through eventually like laminate will. So I'm a huge fan of this product. It is a floating floor system, so the planks click together and they lay over top of whatever is there. We have to still replace the baseboards, and we have to figure out how this flooring is going to interact with the existing cabinetry. Sometimes it means, you know, pulling off the old kick plate and replacing that. But in terms of functionality and versatility, I love this product. I have a dog, and I'm going to tell you, when we do our main floor renovation, this is what I'm going to use for all those reasons. And it can look like wood as it does in this picture, but there are also versions of it that look like tile, like stone. So you can actually even do it in other like laundry room or bathrooms, and it's a very, very good application. Okay, so this is something you might not have heard about. I want to bring it to your attention and say that if we had to deal with carpet in the main floor, obviously I've told you my recommendation would be engineered hardwood as like my first choice, and then possibly this as my second choice, just depending on the individual circumstances. So let's talk about staircases, because this is the really hard thing when dealing with a main floor renovation. If you are changing out the carpet in your living room, dining room, what do you do about the dusty rows on the carpets, on the stairs? If I went into your house and you've got carpet on the stairs, a lot of times there's just particle board underneath it. There's nothing there that you can refinish or really actually work with. And it's very expensive to recap those stairs and basically turn it into something visually appealing, because all the pieces are custom made, and it's not the materials, it's the labor involved. So there are two things with staircases that have to be addressed. Number one is the handrail and spindles, and then number two are the treads and the risers. And so we've got a couple of different options for you that are low cost and totally transformative. I would never, ever, ever recommend you trying to re-stain the spindles and handrail of a staircase. It is so much work. It's hours and hours and hours of work. You're much better to use maybe like a chemical stripper to rough up the surface and then paint it out. And there's new products that are super adhesive, so paints that really stick well. And if you consult with your painting store, like your Benjamin Moore or your Para Paints, they'll give you some recommendations about prepping the surface before you paint. It's not an easy job, but you can see that it really brings the middle picture in particular. That's still the same carpet on the stairs. They didn't do anything about the carpet on the stairs. And I'm not suggesting that in 100% of the cases you have to do it, but in this case, the carpet is still fine. It's just they've updated the look by bringing it from the honey oak era to something that is more contemporary looking. Now, this other treatment of the staircase, I really like. It's a good middle option as well. See, the one on the far left, they've actually, restained the treads and everything, the black. This one, I think they may have painted. I'm not sure if there's a cap there or not, but running that runner up is a really, really attractive option too. So if you've got pink carpet like this, the least expensive option would be to recarpet it, probably, because then you don't have to change anything about the handrail. You're going to recarpet it with something that is very neutral and light, like a Berber, but one that has no pattern or change in elevation to it. Sometimes the Berbers are patterned, or and if it's not installed perfectly, it reads as crooked or just being off. So something that's very low pile, very dense, specific for high traffic areas, and that is probably the least expensive option, because we're measuring expense not just in dollars and cents, but also in time. Like you can imagine, painting out these spindles would take a long time, right? So we want to give you a range of options, but you can see what we're aiming for, and exactly how you get there is going to be determined by your budget and your priorities, right? Okay, so we want to give you as many options as possible, and you can pick and choose from the tools we're putting in your toolbox to choose the one that is right for you. Okay. Exterior. This is a passion of mine because I really see the value added of making sure you're setting the right tone for your house right from the get-go. Okay, so when we have a house listed for sale, we want to make sure just simple things like there's no weeds in the interlock, or the gardens have been freshly turned over, that the front door has either been repainted or at least washed thoroughly, just to get all that dust and dirt from, you know, the wind. We want to make sure that we have some fresh flowers and that it's a very welcoming environment, because we're setting an impression from the minute people drive up to the house. And I have to tell you, this house in Pickering, it's a cornery lot, so we have a lot of exposure, lots of people driving by, but it looks so nice from the outside. We have these big tropical planters. We've got a little, like a little cafe set with matching cushions. It's just so warm and welcoming. It really looks great. So we've had a ton of people just calling us about the house just from the sign and the exterior. And that's what we want for your house as well. So let's look at this. This is a little pet peeve of mine, is the $1.79 jam jar that the builder put on the outside of your house. And if you've ever worked with a builder, you know that I'm not actually too far from the truth. If you can't replace the lighting, and that's not within everyone's ability, I get that, at least take out, get the glass cleaned. And if it's rusty, you can actually take it down, spray paint it, and put it back up again, you know, clean. But just upgrading from the old style to something new. Look at the bottom one, the brass, the pitted brass that's dirty and filled with cobwebs. Take that down and spray paint it a nice matte black, totally contemporary. It really upgrades it. And these things like the garden beds, most of the time they're not bare like they are in this picture. Most of the time I encounter them being overrun with weeds, just because, you know, circumstances happen. It's not a judgment. It's just by refreshing, turning over the soil, adding some new mulch, putting in some hostas, we have like maybe $500 worth of material and labor. You will get thousands back. Not only that, you won't have people turning away. Like, that's the other way. We have literally driven up to properties with a buyer to see it. Looked great online, and when we see it from the front of the house, we just keep driving. It's in, you know, such a ramshackle exterior. We think, wow, if it's this poorly maintained outside, what's it going to look like inside? And we just don't even bother going in. So we don't want that for you. Now, the front door, this is another thing. I've been looking in neighborhoods and that are 30 or 40 years old, and people are starting to replace their front door and their garage doors, right? It's time. And you can definitely spend thousands of dollars on a front door system. Like, we're talking $6,000 or $8,000 for some of these doors with the two side lights. I am not recommending that. But if you have a door that's looking a bit beat up, it's a very neat, tidy little project to do to paint it out. And this is the one time that I'm going to say that a colorful paint choice might be okay. So we can see that little cottage in the middle there, they've painted the front door a very welcoming kind of paprika ready orange. I love that color, and it just really helps it to, you know, have a bit of style and panache. And the same thing with the front door where they painted it. I think it's probably a very, very dark blue. And again, it really adds a lot of appeal. So one of the things that we've had our clients do is, if you have a brass kick plate at the bottom of the door, we ask you to, sometimes if it's very pitted, to take it off and then repaint the door. And it just brings it up to contemporary standards. So that's something you can do. Now, this is just a little infographic that I found. And in terms of actual renovations, up till now, what we've really been doing is just cosmetic improvements, right? It's not actually a renovation to paint your front door. But if you were to renovate, here is the list of the things that will net you the best return on investment from a survey of US realtors. So You can read through this yourself. I'm not going to spend much time, and you will be receiving a copy of this PowerPoint so you can review your options. But if you were to renovate, of course, we know the things. It's kitchen and bathrooms. Those are the things. If we've taken care of the other, you know, I would say kitchens and bathrooms are the next place to consider. So we're ranking it from eliminating red flags, focusing on main floor, attending to cosmetic upgrades, kitchens and bathrooms, in that order. Okay, so now we did cover this last time, but I want to revisit it because it can, like, you could spend, like one of my clients did, she spent $30,000 on renovating her master bathroom, and the rest of the house was very nice, very serviceable, but we had this beautiful, you know, they say in real estate, spa-like bathroom. But the rest of the house was not spa-like. I wish she had taken that $30,000 and sprinkled it around the rest of the house a bit more. But she had really spent a lot of money on this beautiful, beautiful bathroom. And did it help her house sell? Yes. But ultimately, what I'd like you to do is set aside a fixed amount and work within that constraint, because it really can get out of hand, right? It's like the domino effect. Well, great, the powder room looks fantastic, but you know, the master bedroom, you know, whatever. We want to make sure that we have a realistic and restrained budget in preparing our homes for sale. So here's a little rule of thumb. And you know what? This is completely arbitrary. I just literally made this up. So, but I think it works. If the average house is just say $1 million in our region, and that's not far from the truth. If you have a house that is going to sell for somewhere around $1 million, but it's been 10 years since you did anything really significant other than just daily maintenance, then you probably need to put aside about 1% of your sale price, or $10,000. And we're going to put this towards 4 things. The 4th is not listed here, but I've had a change of heart and I want to make sure that I'm thinking this way right from the start. We're going to declutter. We are going to paint. We are going to professionally clean. And then we also want to leave a little bit in the budget for staging. That's a whole other seminar, but it's extremely important right now, even in today's hot, crazy market, to set aside a bit of money, anywhere, let's just say somewhere in the $2,000 ballpark range, to have the house staged by a professional. This is no condemnation of your personal style. This is, you know, we're not criticizing you. I just need you to know that it's a part of the visual marketing of properties today. So we want to include that on the list. Now, but if it's been longer, and it's very easy to slip into the 15-year mark without having done things, we want to make sure that we're attending to all of the above, plus making sure the mechanicals and the roof are in good working order. And this is might be where we budget for replacing your carpet. So let's just do the math. Your house is, everything in your neighborhood is selling for $1 million. And we say that the fair market value of your home should be around $1 million. If you spend $20,000 on these things, will you achieve the average selling price of your neighborhood? Yes, that's the entire name of this game. I'm not trying for you to get you to part with your money. That is not my agenda here. I simply want you to be competitive with the market. And I think we can safely agree that your house was freshly painted with a change in old carpet to one of the flooring options we mentioned. You would easily fetch back your $20,000 plus more, plus. Because like we've said before, there are 2 ways of measuring success in real estate. Number 1 is that we achieve you the highest price possible, the very highest price that your property can fetch. That's always the end goal. But it's also how long it takes to get there. If it takes us like the average 2 weeks, you're going to be a happy camper. But if your property sits on the market, what ends up happening, and we see this, is that it ends up getting reduced and reduced and reduced. So neither of those objectives are achieved. The other thing is, if it's been 25 years or more since you've done anything of significance to your property, We're probably also going to request, it's never mandated, it's never obligatory, but we're going to suggest that you do those things plus attend to the driveway if it hasn't been recently repaved. Probably do something about the front door. Maybe that's just a paint job, maybe it's a replacement, it just depends on the condition. And then I think it's a fabulous option to paint out the cabinets. We have a company that I follow on social media, on Instagram, and unbelievable transformations of kitchens by just spraying the cabinets into a lighter color. It's all professionally done. It's flawless, not like me with a roller at midnight. And it really is a great investment into the resale that your property will fetch. So all of this is taken strictly from a business mindset, right? So if our goal is to get you the highest price in the lowest time, then this is how I suggest a breakdown, okay? And lots of times people request from me a personalized solution. And I get that because every home is different. And most of us, we do work on our home kind of piecemeal, right? Lots of times you see in the neighborhood when an investor has come in and they do a total gut job, they do a complete renovation of the house. That's not the way we do things. Nobody moves out for 4 months while the entire house is renovated. We do a little bit here, a little bit there. Well, we did the family room in 2006, and you know, we did the master bedroom. Like, that's the way we live. So if you need a specific solution for your property, reach out and I'm happy to provide that. It's just my suggestion. But what I do is I organize it into must do in order to even sell the house. Those are those red flags. Should do, and then could do. If you wanted to spend a bit more money, here are the things you should do, and here are the things you could do. But I have to reiterate, we can sell a house in any condition. We just have to make the price adjustment, which I know you don't want to do. Okay, so what does it cost? I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this because we've only got a few more minutes and I want to make sure that I attend to the questions that you've put into the chat box. But here is a Canadian average of the price of laminate and engineered hardwood, carpet installation. And then I think in the next one, we have the hardwood, and yeah, so this is all going to be sent to you. You can take note. And just if you're curious, go to Home Depot. I love Home Depot. And I know I did a good job of raising my youngest daughter when she says that Home Depot is her favorite store. Yeah. So what 16-year-old says that, right? Okay. And then we have the cost of hiring a painter. Like, people say to me all the time, what does it cost to paint a house? Well, it depends radically on what needs to be done. Are we talking ceilings and trim and doors and baseboard, or are we just talking walls? Are we, you know, it's a vast difference in the budget, but there are some kind of ranges of cost. And then the kitchen cabinets. I love that transformation. I have to do a full renovation of my kitchen because my kitchen has been painted so many times, the cabinets don't close anymore. So, you know, there is a limit to how much we can do. As my grandma would say, lipstick on a pig. But these are some things to consider as you're budgeting for the 10% or the 20% that you're going to set aside to prepare your house for sale. And then we want to talk about countertops. Like, we did talk about replacing countertops. If you have R.O.I or whatever it is, laminate type old counters that have scorch marks or have chips or discolorations of them, it might behoove you to replace it. And here are your options. I'm not in favor of porous stone, either marble or granite. I really do like quartz as a product right now. You can see it's at least double the price of a standard laminate counter. And they do have some really good textured laminate counters now that really closely mimic, like, you know, the variations in color that these other stone materials make. But I love quartz because it's a semi-man-made material. What does that mean? It means that they take stone dust, quartz dust, and they mix it with polymer and resins and colors, and they extrude it into this product. And it is impervious to heat and acid and staining. It's solid all the way through, so that if you did somehow manage to nick it, you're not seeing some other color below. And it doesn't require any maintenance, unlike marble and granite. So I really like quartz as an option. And it comes in a wide variety. And when we're talking about stylistic choices, the plainer, the better. I know you can get things that look like zebra stripes, but I don't recommend it for the reason we mentioned way back at the beginning, that you're going to turn some people off. So very, very subtle, very actually boring, as classic and neutral as you can manage it, and you'll get the best response by the most number of people. If they want to bedazzle it, they can bring their own glue gun and rhinestones when they move in. But for you, we just want simple, plain, neutral, classic. Okay. And oh yeah, then we've got some bathroom renovation costs. I had to rebuild a shower in my basement. It cost me about $6,000 to rebuild the shower. So that gives me a pretty accurate view of what it would cost. And I think these are averages, and you obviously can go crazy. You could spend, if you wanted to add a gold plated toilet, you could do that. But we, again, are looking for modest, moderate renovations that make sense. Okay. I didn't realize that was the last slide. It took me off guard. So I'm going to give you a minute to type in any additional questions. I see that we do have some comments, and just let you know about our other offers. Just like today's webinar, these are free, no cost, no obligation. We love to do this because we know that many of you are thinking about condos as a potential future step. And unless you have friends in a building, how would you ever see them? So yesterday, I think we had 9 condo apartments on our tour in Thornhill, and it helps me to find out some really interesting products, buildings you never knew existed, and look for options. And again, in the same way that we've given you a variety of options here today, we want to give you a variety of options for our condo tour. So sign up and join us. And then we have the rest of our webinar series. This actually came from our in-person seminars, and now we've adapted, as I said. So there's lots of great information, and we will be following up with you with some additional resources that we hope you find helpful. And then we talked about the importance of decluttering, the most important thing to do, and we have a program for that. We don't just leave you stranded and say, go declutter, and not be there to help you. This is a 30-day challenge where every day you get a little self-contained activity. You can do it in 15 or 20 minutes. And by the end of it, wow, you are going to be 30 pounds lighter. At least your house is guaranteed. And then we also make sure that you're encouraged and motivated throughout it. And we encourage you to sign up for this as well. It really helps. And then we talked about the property evaluations. I wish I could reach into everybody's heads and just let them know this is the seller's market. If you have any thoughts of selling your house in the next 12 months, I would do it now. I would seriously get ready to go as soon as you possibly could, even if it meant we had to forego some of the recommendations, because there is no inventory for sale, and that is driving the prices up, and that is creating bidding wars. So I mentioned the house in Pickering. People have been coming through, even though it's at the top end of the price. We have 4 agents who have told us they will be putting offers in. So this is the time where you could make 15 to 20% more on your house than it would have sold for this time last year. In what other world could I potentially make you $200,000 more on your $1 million house? If I handed you a check, okay, never mind, I could go on And don't get me started. So if you want to know how much your house is worth, reach out and I'm happy to provide that for you. And then finally, we have this great online group on Facebook. If you're a Facebook user, please come and join our group. We don't spam you. There's no real estate involved. It's just about staying connected, because I find this very isolating this time. I'm a people person. I like to be with people, and it makes me feel a little bit more connected to my friends, my family, my clients. So please join us, okay? So I am going to open up the chat box. I haven't been answering your questions up until now because I'm easily distracted. So I want to make sure that I look at them and just answer. Okay, let's just talk about it. With the cleaning crew, does the seller pay for the service, or are they part of the real estate fee? And what are the real estate fees that you charge for a home? When somebody hires you to be their agent to sell their property, do you ensure before the potential buyer even visits the property that they have been approved for a mortgage that would cover the asking costs? Okay, so 3 important questions. Everything in real estate is negotiable. So I'm not going to answer any questions in a public forum about private negotiations about things like commission, okay? So let's just say that the industry standard is 5%, of which 2.5% is paid to the buyer's agent. And that incentivizes them to bring the buyers to. So the seller pays the commission. We can talk about this. I'm happy to have that conversation. I'm not skirting the subject. It's just a money talk that is best done face-to-face. The cleaning, again, it can be either or. It just depends on the circumstances. We do have a wonderful pre-listings cleaner that we recommend. If that's a hardship for you or something that you balk at, we'll make that as a business decision as well. Now, in terms of dealing with buyers to see if they are pre-qualified, no, that's not part of my job mandate. That is actually part of the buyer's job mandate, the buyer's agent. So when I'm working with buyers, before I take them anywhere, I am not wasting my time showing them $1 million house if they only qualify to purchase up to $700,000. So that's a conversation I have directly with my buyers when I'm working with buyers. And as professionals, I assume that no other buyer's agent is going to want to waste their time showing them your house if they can't actually afford it. Because buyers only get paid when they bring a successful deal together for their clients, just like that's the only time I get paid, right? I'm not going to tell you your house is worth more than it's worth, because it'll never sell and then I will never see a paycheck. So the same thing happens in reverse. I'm not going to show my buyer clients something they can't afford. So we leave that up to the buyer's agents to be the professionals we trust them to be. Okay? So the company that does the spray kitchen cabinets, they're called Inspirational. I think that's the name. Cheesy name, fantastic company. And there's a couple of other ones. Oh, I just lost it. I think it's called the Harbor Company, the Harbor Painting Company Inc. or something like that. But we'll send you out a list of those resources. Maybe I can ask Melissa just to make a note and we will send that out as part of our email. There's a couple of companies that we refer business to, and I've seen their handiwork and it's pretty fantastic. Okay, so Larissa has a question. In your opinion, are buyers nowadays looking for sustainable items in the home now that they will be spending more time indoors, i.e. water conservation, air efficiency? Do you think these upgrades have high ROI and make sellers more competitive in the market? Okay, so let's take an example of a hot water tank, right? There are hot water on demand systems now that replace the relatively energy inefficient big tanks that stay heated, all that. For a big house, a luxury home with a lot of bedrooms and potentially a lot of kids where you would actually perhaps run out of hot water, those things definitely add to the overall package. Are they standalones? No. If it's a high efficiency furnace and we can point to that as part of the overall upgrades that have been done to the house as evidence of it being well maintained, yes. But as a standalone item, No, I don't think they really do pay off, except if you're doing it for your own issues and concerns, right? Water softeners, water filters, HEPA air filters on the furnace, all of that. They're lovely add-ons. They're the cherry on the sundae, but they're not a replacement for the other things that I think are much more basic. So I'd always start there first. And I think, like so many people, if you would enjoy it for you in the time remaining in your house, then you should do it. But not as something that is going to help you sell the house. I just don't see it. This is great. Thank you. I missed the best renovations for our R.O.I apartment. Yes, you can receive a copy of that because we like you, Diane, and we're glad you're here. Diane, I will send you. See, Melissa's right on it. Okay. A virtual evaluation of the home. Terrific. I'm happy to do that. If there any more questions, we're almost at the end of our time. We're 5 minutes over. Oh my goodness, I'm going to turn into a pumpkin. I hope you enjoyed this. This is such great information, but just take it with a grain of salt. It's my opinion. And I think what I'm hoping to do is set you up in the landscape here of buyer's mindset, help you to look at your property a little bit more objectively, to take care of the white elephant in the room, which is always the clutter and the repairs. Then start projecting into things where you're actually going to spend some money, like maybe painting, maybe flooring, and then take it from there. But if you have specific questions, like for example, one of my clients said to me, "Oh, my fence is falling down at the back of the property. And should I replace the whole fence or just repair the part that is falling down?" I said, "Well, why don't I just pop by and have a look, and I can just have a better assessment that way." So these are things that are always part of my job description, and you're never bothering me. It's not a bother. I love doing it, and it's a great way to connect and get on the same page about what's important. Okay. So if there's anyone else that you know who could benefit by our webinars, would you please refer them to us? We're going to continue on doing these once a week as we have been. Not next week because I'm on vacation. And we're going to continue on into August. So if you know somebody, would you just help us spread the word? Because word of mouth recommendations carry so much more weight than any other kind of promotion. So we'd love to have you and your friends come back and take us up on our other services. Okay, so we always want to end with this request for referrals because it's the way we build our business. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. It's been my great pleasure to cast aluminum. Okay, that's cast aluminum. Wow, my nephew's a welder. I wonder if he could do that. I'll find out. So thank you. Yes, I will enjoy my vacation. My vacation is, I'm taking my 16-year-old up, kicking and screaming up to my parents' place up north. So just pray that the Wi-Fi gods are good because otherwise it's going to be a lot of ice cream and a lot of trips to town to the Tim Hortons so she can catch up with her so-called friends. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you being here.